A angry alien queen the human gave her a heir after their first night. Zyra, the queen of Thalora, paced across the wide marble floor of her palace. The lights of the city glimmered outside the tall windows, reflecting off the polished walls and casting soft patterns on the floor. Despite the beauty around her, Zyra's mind was restless. Nothing had ever surprised her, and yet tonight something strange had arrived on her world, something she had never expected. The human ambassador had stepped onto her planet earlier that day. His name was Leo. Humans were rare visitors to Thalora. Most aliens either ignored Earth or considered it too small to matter. But humans were different. They were curious, bold, and often reckless. Zyra had heard stories about them, but no story could prepare her for the reality of meeting one. When Leo had entered the throne room, he had walked with confidence, his posture relaxed but polite. His bright eyes scanned the surroundings, and for a moment, Zyra saw no fear in him. This was unusual. Most visitors trembled under the gaze of the Thaloran queen. Most tried to impress her with gifts or elaborate speeches. Leo simply nodded respectfully, his expression calm and curious. "Queen Zyra," he had said, his voice steady, "I come in peace representing humanity. My mission is simple, to establish friendship and trade." Zyra had raised an eyebrow. Friendship and trade were easy words, but she had ruled Thalora for decades and had learned that words often hid intentions. She had allowed him to speak but kept her mind guarded. Humans were unpredictable. One wrong move, and they could disrupt everything she had built. The first hours of their meeting were polite but tense. Leo asked questions about Thaloran customs, showing genuine interest. He did not mock their traditions or try to charm her with flattery. Zyra felt a flicker of curiosity. Perhaps humans were not as reckless as she had imagined, or perhaps Leo was simply clever enough to hide his mistakes. Then the unthinkable happened. A planetary phenomenon, rare and dangerous, began outside the palace. The sky turned a strange shade of green, and energy waves rippled across the city. This was not natural. Thalora's scientists had predicted the phenomenon, but its intensity was far beyond what anyone had expected. Buildings trembled slightly, alarms sounded, and the palace security rushed to stabilize the energy fields. Zyra's guards moved quickly, but Leo did something unexpected. He stepped forward, observing the energy waves and pointing out a pattern that even the Thaloran scientists had overlooked. "The energy is fluctuating," he said. "If we redirect it slightly, it could stabilize." Zyra watched him carefully. Humans were not supposed to understand Thaloran energy systems. They were supposed to panic, make mistakes, or break the machinery with their ignorance. Yet Leo spoke with knowledge, calm and precise. Without waiting for permission, he moved to assist the engineers. His hands were human, soft compared to the alien tools, but his mind was sharp. He guided the adjustments with skill, predicting the outcome accurately. Within minutes, the energy waves stabilized. The city lights returned to normal, and the palace stopped trembling. Zyra felt a mixture of astonishment and irritation. Here was a human, a being she had never trusted, saving her city with intelligence and courage. She wanted to be angry, but she could not deny the truth. He had acted heroically, and the results were undeniable. After the phenomenon passed, Zyra summoned Leo to her private chambers. She wanted to understand this human better, to see if his actions were a fluke or a sign of something more. As they spoke, she noticed how different humans were from any other species she had encountered. They were unpredictable but adaptable, curious but determined. Their emotions were raw, their courage unique. Leo did not bow excessively, nor did he try to impress her. He spoke honestly, answering her questions without hesitation, showing respect without fear. The night grew deeper. Thalora's twin moons shone through the windows, casting silver light across the room. Zyra and Leo talked for hours, discussing their worlds, their histories, and their dreams. For a moment, the palace felt quiet and peaceful, as if nothing in the galaxy could disturb them. Yet beneath the calm, Zyra felt something shift within her. Humans were dangerous in unexpected ways. They could change the rules without even realizing it. And then, by the morning, she discovered the unimaginable. Zyra was to bear an heir. A child of Thalora and humanity, an unprecedented union that defied every tradition of her people. Her mind raced with confusion and disbelief. How could a single night lead to such a momentous outcome? How could a human, with no intention of challenging her authority, alter the future of her dynasty forever? Zyra's anger burned first. She had always controlled every aspect of her life and her kingdom. She was the queen, a ruler who made decisions that shaped civilizations. And now, in a matter of hours, this human had disrupted her carefully ordered existence. She wanted to shout, to demand explanations, to send him back to Earth. But as she looked at Leo, she saw no arrogance, no malice. He was calm, sincere, and concerned. For the first time, Zyra realized that anger alone could not solve the situation. She would need to think, to strategize, and to understand the human before her. She paced the chambers again, trying to calm herself. The palace staff whispered behind closed doors, and the nobles murmured anxiously. A Thaloran queen with a human heir was unprecedented. Some would see it as a scandal. Others would see it as a threat to tradition. Zyra needed a plan. She called for Leo. He entered the chamber, his expression respectful but open. "Your Majesty," he said softly, "I did not mean for this to happen. I will support you in whatever way I can. The child will have a place in your world, not mine." Zyra studied him. Humans had a strange way of being honest, even when honesty caused problems. She had never encountered such sincerity among her own people, who often hid motives behind layers of diplomacy and ritual. Perhaps that was why humans were so unpredictable. They did not follow the rules that bound other species. Over the next few hours, Zyra began to consider the possibilities. This child, born of human and Thaloran, could symbolize more than just her lineage. It could become a bridge between worlds, a new chapter in galactic history. But first, she had to navigate the delicate politics of her court. The nobles would not accept a human so easily. The scientists and advisors would have questions, and the media across the planet would speculate endlessly. Yet amidst the stress and anger, Zyra felt a strange curiosity. Humans were so different from her people, yet so resilient. Leo had shown courage, intelligence, and kindness in ways that impressed even her disciplined mind. She realized that perhaps humans had qualities that Thalorans lacked, qualities that could benefit her people, her kingdom, and even her child. By the end of the first day, Zyra had made her decision. She would not act out of anger. She would not dismiss the human or the child he had helped create. Instead, she would observe, learn, and strategize. She would protect her kingdom, yes, but she would also consider the possibilities that this unprecedented situation presented. The human had disrupted her life, but perhaps disruption was exactly what Thalora needed. As the twin moons rose high in the sky, Zyra looked out at the city from her balcony. The lights shimmered like stars, reflecting her thoughts and doubts. The future was uncertain, the path unknown, but one thing was clear: the human had changed everything. And Zyra, the fierce and proud queen, would not ignore what had happened. She would face it with strength, intelligence, and curiosity, the very qualities that had made her the ruler of Thalora. In the quiet of the night, she made a promise to herself. She would protect her child, her people, and the fragile hope of something new. And she would watch the human carefully, learning from him, challenging him, and perhaps even trusting him, in ways she had never trusted anyone before. The galaxy had shifted, subtly but irrevocably, and the story of Zyra, Leo, and their heir was only beginning. The weeks passed quickly on Thalora, but for Queen Zyra, time seemed both swift and heavy. Every morning, she woke with a mixture of determination and worry. The knowledge that she carried an heir, the first human Thaloran child in history, weighed on her mind like a new responsibility she could not ignore. Yet she also felt a strange excitement. This child, born from an unexpected union, represented a new possibility for her people, for her planet, and perhaps for the galaxy itself. Leo remained by her side, respectful and attentive, yet careful not to overstep. He did not claim authority or demand recognition. He simply offered insight when Zyra asked for it, and he learned from her experience when he could. The human's presence was a strange comfort to her. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they could also be steady in ways Thalorans were not. His courage, intelligence, and calmness during the crisis of the planetary phenomenon had already proven that. The court, however, was another matter entirely. Nobles whispered in corners, questioning the queen's judgment. Some openly suggested that she had compromised Thaloran traditions by allowing a human to have influence, even indirectly, over the future of the royal line. Advisors debated endlessly over political strategies, each one offering conflicting opinions. Some suggested secrecy, others demanded an official announcement. Zyra listened to them all, her face calm, but inside her mind was a whirlwind. She would not let fear or pride dictate her actions. She would choose her path carefully. One morning, she called Leo to her private chambers. The sunlight streamed through the tall windows, illuminating the palace's intricate carvings. "Leo," she said, her tone measured, "the council grows restless. They question everything. We cannot avoid them forever." Leo bowed slightly. "Your Majesty, I understand. I will follow your guidance. How do you wish to proceed?" Zyra studied him for a long moment. Humans had a strange ability to adapt quickly, to understand complex situations without fear. Perhaps that was why they survived in a galaxy full of species far stronger and larger than themselves. "We will be honest," she decided, "but not reckless. We will reveal the truth carefully in a way that shows strength rather than weakness." The announcement was prepared with care. Zyra's voice, firm and confident, filled the council hall. "The human ambassador, Leo, has shown wisdom, courage, and loyalty. His presence has changed my life and the future of Thalora. I am carrying an heir, a child born of both Thaloran and human. This child will represent the unity of our worlds and the possibilities that await when we embrace understanding over fear." The room fell silent. Nobles exchanged glances, some shocked, some skeptical. Yet Zyra's calm authority left no room for argument. She did not ask for approval, she demanded respect. And slowly, grudgingly, the council accepted the announcement. Leo, standing beside her, nodded respectfully, demonstrating that humans could honor tradition even as they challenged it. In the days that followed, preparations began for the child's arrival. Zyra oversaw everything personally, ensuring that her heir would be welcomed with dignity and safety. Leo assisted wherever he could, offering ideas based on human practices, but always deferring to her judgment. Together, they worked as partners, combining the wisdom of Thalora with the ingenuity of Earth. During quiet moments, Zyra found herself reflecting on the human beside her. He had not sought power, wealth, or influence. He had acted out of courage and compassion, qualities that Zyra valued more than titles or riches. She began to see him not just as a guest or a companion, but as a bridge to a future she had never imagined. Humans were often underestimated, and yet Leo proved that they could inspire change without even realizing it. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the city, Zyra and Leo walked together on the palace balcony. The air was cool and fragrant with the scent of alien flowers. "Do you ever worry about what will happen?" Leo asked softly. "About the child, about the people." Zyra shook her head slightly. "I do not fear the future, Leo. I respect it. The galaxy is full of uncertainty, but courage and intelligence are our greatest tools. This child will inherit not only my legacy, but also the strengths of humanity. That is a gift, not a burden." Leo smiled faintly. "I hope I can live up to that gift. I do not want to fail you or the child." "You will not fail," Zyra replied firmly. "You have already proven that humans can surprise even the most disciplined Thaloran." She paused, looking out at the city lights below. "Our child will grow knowing that strength is not just in tradition or power, but in courage, understanding, and the ability to act when it matters." Months passed, and the palace buzzed with activity. Preparations for the child's arrival continued, and Zyra balanced her duties as queen with her anticipation and curiosity. She continued to observe Leo, learning from his methods, his perspective, and his determination. Humans approached life differently from Thalorans. They did not always follow protocol, but they found solutions in unexpected ways. Their resilience was something she admired. When the day finally came, it was not with alarm or chaos, but with dignity and ceremony. The palace was filled with advisors, nobles, and trusted allies, all gathered to witness the momentous occasion. The heir was born, healthy and vibrant, a perfect blend of Thaloran grace and human warmth. Zyra held the child in her arms, feeling a connection that transcended species, tradition, and expectation. Leo stood beside her, his eyes bright with pride and awe. He did not touch the child immediately, understanding that this moment belonged first to Zyra, the queen and mother. "You have given the galaxy something new," he said quietly. "A chance to see what is possible." Zyra smiled, a mixture of relief and wonder on her face. "No," she replied softly. "We have given the galaxy something new. This is not just my child or yours, Leo. This is the future of our worlds." The weeks that followed were filled with learning and adaptation. Thaloran culture embraced the child cautiously, but the presence of Leo helped ease tensions. Humans were curious, compassionate, and wise in ways that complemented Thaloran's strength and discipline. The child became a symbol, not just of a union between species, but of the potential for cooperation, understanding, and growth. Zyra found herself reflecting often on the night that had started it all. One moment of chaos, one encounter with a human, had changed the course of her life and the history of Thalora forever. She had felt anger, confusion, and fear, but she had also discovered hope, resilience, and the unexpected joy of partnership. Humans, she realized, were not just fragile creatures. They were capable of inspiring greatness, even in those who considered themselves invincible. As the months passed, Zyra and Leo worked together to educate and prepare the child for the world ahead. The child would grow with lessons from two species, learning courage, intelligence, empathy, and the value of unity. Zyra took comfort in knowing that this new generation would carry forward the strengths of both Thalorans and humans, bridging gaps that had existed for centuries. One evening, Zyra sat in her private chambers, the child sleeping peacefully in a cradle beside her. Leo was nearby, reviewing plans for future trade and diplomacy. For a moment, all was calm. The queen felt a sense of peace she had not known for decades. The challenges were far from over, but for the first time she felt that the future was not something to fear. It was something to shape. "Do you think the galaxy is ready for this?" Leo asked quietly. Zyra looked at him, her expression steady and confident. "The galaxy is never ready, but humans and Thalorans together, perhaps it can be taught to adapt. Our child will show them the way." Leo nodded. "Then we have a lot to teach." "And a lot to learn," Zyra added, smiling. "Together we will face whatever comes. And perhaps one day, humans will be seen not as unpredictable outsiders, but as beings capable of greatness in ways even Thalorans cannot imagine." The palace lights dimmed, the twin moons shone over the city, and a quiet hope settled over Thalora. Zyra, the queen who had once been angry and uncertain, now looked to the future with clarity and courage. She had faced the unexpected, embraced it, and found that strength often comes from what we cannot control. And so, with a human by her side and a child who carried the promise of two worlds, Queen Zyra began a new chapter, one of cooperation, understanding, and hope. The galaxy would never be the same, and perhaps in that change it would discover something greater than fear, something greater than tradition, and something greater than the limits of any one species. The child slept peacefully, and for the first time in her life, Zyra allowed herself to hope without reservation. The future was uncertain, yes, but it was also bright. And with courage, intelligence, and partnership, anything was possible. Time on Thalora moved with a steady rhythm, but for Queen Zyra, every day brought new challenges and discoveries. The child, a symbol of unity between human and Thaloran, had grown into a curious and bright infant. Zyra watched with pride and wonder as the child's eyes, a unique blend of human warmth and Thaloran depth, reflected the potential of both worlds. Leo remained ever close, offering guidance and sharing ideas on education, diplomacy, and exploration. He had become more than an ambassador. He had become a partner, a friend, and a teacher in ways Zyra had never anticipated. The court had gradually adjusted to the presence of the human heir. While some nobles continued to murmur behind closed doors, most had begun to accept the new reality. The child's very existence challenged old prejudices, and slowly, respect replaced suspicion. Zyra felt a quiet satisfaction. Leadership, she realized, was not only about ruling, it was about shaping the future, guiding her people toward understanding, and embracing possibilities they could not yet see. One morning, as the twin moons hung low in the sky, Zyra stood in the palace gardens, watching the city below awaken. Leo approached, carrying a small book of human stories. He handed it to her with a smile. "These are tales from my world," he said. "Some are about courage, some about hope, and some about people who changed their lives through small choices. I thought the child might enjoy them one day." Zyra accepted the book, her fingers tracing the cover. Humans had a strange way of capturing lessons in stories, something Thalorans often overlooked. "Thank you," she said softly. "I will read them to the child. Perhaps these stories will teach lessons our own histories cannot." The months continued, and with each passing day, the child's presence reshaped the palace in subtle but meaningful ways. Laughter filled corridors that had once been quiet and formal. Simple games, shared between human ingenuity and Thaloran tradition, became routines that bonded the family. Zyra discovered that the joy of parenthood brought new strength and insight to her reign. Her decisions felt sharper, her strategies more balanced, and her perspective broader. Then came the day of the Interstellar Summit. Leaders from nearby systems were gathering on Thalora to discuss trade, security, and alliances. Normally, Zyra would have approached such an event with strict protocol and careful planning. But now, with Leo's guidance and the influence of the Heir, she saw an opportunity to demonstrate not only her leadership, but the possibilities of cooperation across species. The summit began with the usual formalities, but Zyra made a deliberate choice to introduce the child. She carried the infant into the central hall, where dignitaries from multiple worlds observed with curiosity and cautious respect. "This child," Zyra announced, her voice steady and commanding, "represents the future of understanding, courage, and collaboration. Let it remind us that greatness is not born from fear or division, but from the strength we find in unity." The room was silent for a moment. Then slowly, leaders began to applaud, some out of protocol, others out of genuine admiration. The child's presence was a symbol no one could ignore. Conversations shifted from skepticism to hope, and Zyra realized that the impact of her choice was far greater than she had imagined. After the summit, Zyra and Leo walked through the palace gardens, reflecting on the day. "You see how much influence this child has already," Leo said, his tone thoughtful. "Even without understanding it, the child is shaping the way others think." Zyra nodded. "Yes, but influence alone is not enough. We must nurture it, guide it, and ensure that the lessons of courage, kindness, and understanding remain at the center of its growth." The following weeks were filled with lessons for the child. Zyra ensured a balance between Thaloran discipline and human creativity. They learned languages, studied history, and explored technology. Leo taught simple experiments and problem-solving, while Zyra guided the child through strategy, ethics, and leadership. The combination of human curiosity and Thaloran wisdom created a child who was both adaptable and strong, thoughtful and brave. Yet life was not without its challenges. Some members of the court continued to resist change. They questioned Zyra's decisions, the child's role, and the influence of the human ambassador. Zyra faced these challenges with patience and careful reasoning, proving that strength was not only in tradition, but also in flexibility and vision. Leo supported her quietly, offering insight when needed and refraining from interference in matters that required Thaloran authority. One evening, as the city lights glimmered beneath the moons, Zyra received a report from the planetary security team. A group from a neighboring system had sent envoys, seeking to test Thalora's defenses and observe the new political structure. Zyra recognized this as both a challenge and an opportunity. Instead of responding with hostility, she organized a demonstration of unity. She invited the envoys to witness the child's lessons, simple exercises in problem-solving, negotiation, and cultural exchange. The visitors watched, skeptical at first, but by the end of the day they were impressed. They saw a species that could embrace change, a leader who could balance strength with wisdom, and a human whose ingenuity complemented Thaloran discipline. The child, though young, symbolized the potential of cooperation across worlds. When the envoys left, they carried respect and perhaps even inspiration with them. Zyra realized that leadership was evolving. Her decisions were no longer only about her planet's immediate needs. They were about setting an example, showing that fear could be replaced by understanding, and that the strengths of multiple species could create something far greater than any one species alone. As the weeks passed, Zyra found herself reflecting more often on humanity. Leo's presence had opened her mind to possibilities she had never considered. Humans were not invincible, but they had a resilience and creativity that Thalorans often lacked. Their willingness to act without certainty, their ability to inspire change through simple honesty, and their courage in the face of uncertainty fascinated her. The child grew quickly, absorbing lessons from both parents, and Zyra found a deep satisfaction in watching them learn. The little one would reach for tools, books, and gadgets with equal curiosity, always questioning, always exploring. Zyra realized that this curiosity was a strength, one that would shape not only the child's future, but perhaps the future of Thalora itself. One afternoon, Zyra sat in the library, reading one of Leo's human stories to the child. The tale was simple, about a person who faced great danger yet acted with courage and compassion. The child listened intently, eyes wide, absorbing every word. When Zyra finished, the infant reached for the book, a small smile on their face. "You will learn much from stories," Zyra said softly, touching the child's tiny hand. "Not just from books, but from the world around you. Courage, understanding, kindness, these are lessons no technology or power can replace." Leo joined them, resting a hand gently on Zyra's shoulder. "The child will grow knowing that strength comes from heart and mind together. That is a rare gift, and one I hope they will cherish." Zyra nodded. "Yes, and it is a gift we will protect, guide, and nurture. Together we will teach the child to face the galaxy with courage, curiosity, and wisdom." The months continued, each day bringing new experiences, lessons, and moments of joy. Zyra noticed a subtle shift within her court and her people. Respect had grown into admiration. Fear had begun to transform into curiosity. And for the first time in decades, Zyra felt a quiet optimism about the future. The human presence, once a source of anger and confusion, had become a source of hope and inspiration. As the child's first year approached, Zyra planned a celebration unlike any other in Thaloran history. She invited leaders, scholars, and citizens from across the planet. The event would honor the child, celebrate unity, and showcase the possibilities that arose when courage, intelligence, and collaboration came together. On the day of the celebration, the palace was alive with excitement. Music and laughter filled the halls. Dignitaries from across systems attended, witnessing firsthand the potential of human-Thaloran cooperation. The child, now learning to stand with support, became the center of attention, admired for both charm and curiosity. Zyra stood proudly beside Leo, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment and hope. In her heart, she knew that the challenges were far from over. The galaxy would continue to test them, question them, and challenge their decisions. But she also knew that with courage, intelligence, and partnership, no obstacle was insurmountable. The child symbolized a new path, one where species could learn from each other, grow together, and face the future with hope rather than fear. As the twin moons rose high once again, Zyra looked out over the city. The lights shimmered like stars, reflecting a future full of possibilities. She held the child in her arms, feeling warmth, hope, and pride. Leo stood nearby, silent but steadfast, a reminder that partnership could transcend species, culture, and expectation. And so, with the human ambassador by her side and a child who carried the promise of two worlds, Queen Zyra faced the future with confidence. The galaxy was vast and unpredictable, but she knew that together they could shape it for the better. Courage, understanding, and unity would guide them. And perhaps, in time, the universe would learn that even the most unlikely alliances could create greatness beyond imagination. The city slept peacefully beneath the twin moons, and in the quiet of the night, Zyra allowed herself a rare moment of contentment. The future was uncertain, yes, but it was also full of promise. With intelligence, courage, and partnership, anything was possible. And for the first time, she felt that the galaxy, for all its challenges, could be ready for change. The seasons changed on Thalora, and the city grew quieter with the subtle rhythm of time passing. Yet for Queen Zyra, life was far from quiet. The child, now toddling and curious about the world, brought a new kind of energy to the palace. Every corner was filled with laughter, questions, and discovery. Zyra marveled at how quickly the child absorbed knowledge, balancing Thaloran discipline with human creativity. It was clear to her that this little one would grow into a leader unlike any the galaxy had ever known. Leo had become an inseparable part of palace life. He moved through the halls with care and humility, always mindful of customs, yet never losing the human spark that made him so unique. He spent hours with the child, showing them how to examine simple machines, how to ask questions, and how to look beyond appearances to find solutions. His influence was subtle but profound. Zyra watched with pride, realizing that the combination of human ingenuity and Thaloran wisdom would shape her child's mind in ways she could only imagine. One morning, the palace received an urgent communication from a neighboring star system. Strange energy readings had been detected near the outer colonies, readings that suggested a natural phenomenon might threaten settlements. Normally, such matters would be handled by scientific councils and military units, but Zyra saw this as an opportunity. She decided to take a hands-on approach, both to protect her people and to teach her child the importance of courage, observation, and action. Zyra called Leo to the observation deck, where they could see the swirling lights of the outer colonies on their holographic displays. "This is not a drill," she said. "We must act carefully. Lives are at stake and our decisions must be precise." Leo studied the readings, his expression focused. "The energy pulses are irregular," he said. "It looks like they could destabilize if we do not intervene. I have a few ideas, but we must coordinate with your engineers." Zyra nodded, appreciating the human's ability to analyze the situation calmly. "We will do this together," she said. And the child will observe, learning that courage is not about fearlessness, but about action in the face of uncertainty. Over the next few hours, the palace became a hub of activity. Zyra coordinated the Thaloran engineers. Leo offered human insight, and together they developed a plan to stabilize the energy pulses. The child watched from a safe distance, eyes wide with curiosity, holding Zyra's hand while absorbing the lessons of leadership, strategy, and cooperation. The intervention was successful. Energy readings returned to normal, and the colonies were safe. Engineers praised both the Queen's decisiveness and Leo's ingenuity. For Zyra, the real victory was the lesson imparted to her child, that strength, intelligence, and collaboration were more powerful than fear or hesitation. The weeks following the intervention were filled with preparations for the child's first formal lessons. Zyra wanted the child to understand not just their heritage, but the importance of connecting with others. The curriculum was carefully balanced: human creativity, Thaloran discipline, ethics, languages, and problem-solving exercises. Leo often led hands-on sessions, showing how to approach challenges with curiosity, patience, and critical thinking. One evening, as the twin moons rose, Zyra sat with the child and Leo on the palace balcony. "Do you see the city below?" she asked. "Every light, every building, every person is part of a story, and your story is beginning." The child babbled in excitement, pointing toward the city. Leo smiled and explained in simple terms how energy, light, and life intertwined to make the city function. Zyra watched, her heart full, realizing that the child's future was a tapestry of knowledge, courage, and connection that would stretch across worlds. During the same week, diplomats from other systems arrived to witness Thalora's new era. They were curious about the human presence and the child who symbolized unity. Zyra knew that perception mattered as much as action. She invited the diplomats to observe the palace in operation, lessons for the child, the management of resources, and the careful coordination of engineers, scientists, and leaders. The visitors were impressed. They saw a civilization that was disciplined yet open, strong yet flexible, and led by a queen who understood the importance of adaptation. In private, Zyra reflected on her own growth. She had once believed that anger, control, and authority were the foundations of leadership. Now she saw that wisdom, courage, and the ability to embrace change were just as important. Humans, she realized, had a unique ability to challenge assumptions and inspire action. Leo had been the catalyst for this understanding, but the child would carry it further. As the child grew more active and adventurous, Zyra and Leo took them on short trips beyond the palace. They explored the nearby forests, studied the rivers, and examined the alien flora and fauna. The child's curiosity was boundless, and Zyra found herself marveling at the way humans and Thalorans approached learning differently yet complementarily. Where Thalorans observed with precision, humans experimented with intuition. Together, they created a learning environment that nurtured both observation and creativity. One afternoon, the child accidentally triggered a minor disturbance in one of the palace gardens. A small water conduit overflowed, flooding a section of the garden. Zyra approached calmly, while Leo guided the child in understanding the cause and the solution. "See," he said, "problems are opportunities to learn. Mistakes teach more than success sometimes." Zyra smiled at the child. "And courage means facing mistakes with patience, not fear. You see, little one, this is how leaders grow." Weeks later, Zyra received a report of a potential alliance with a distant system. The leaders of that system were known for their innovation, but also for their skepticism of outsiders. Zyra knew that the child's presence, along with Leo's calm guidance, could demonstrate the potential of cooperation. She carefully orchestrated a demonstration of human Thaloran ingenuity, a project showing sustainable energy management, problem-solving exercises, and the collaborative efforts of both species. The demonstration was a success. The skeptical leaders witnessed the value of unity and respect, seeing how humans and Thalorans could work together to solve complex challenges. Zyra recognized that influence was not wielded by force, but by example. Her people and her allies were learning that cooperation, courage, and understanding were stronger than suspicion or prejudice. As months passed, the child continued to grow, displaying intelligence, empathy, and courage in equal measure. Zyra and Leo nurtured these qualities carefully, emphasizing that the galaxy was vast and unpredictable. But with understanding and preparation, nothing was impossible. The child learned that mistakes were valuable, curiosity was a strength, and that partnership could overcome obstacles that strength alone could not. One evening, Zyra sat in her chambers, watching the child play with simple mechanical toys that Leo had designed. "Do you see how they explore?" she asked Leo. "Their curiosity is endless, and yet it is guided by lessons from both of us. This is the future I hoped for, even if I did not expect it." Leo nodded. "They are learning faster than we imagined. And they will show the galaxy a way to unite rather than divide." Zyra placed a hand on the child's shoulder. "We have given them tools, yes, but we have also given them courage, empathy, and understanding. Those are the qualities that will matter most." The palace quieted as the moons rose high. Zyra and Leo looked out at the city, the gardens, and the people who had begun to embrace change. For the first time in years, the queen allowed herself to feel contentment. The challenges of leadership, diplomacy, and parenthood were many, but together, they were shaping a future that held promise for the entire galaxy. In the days that followed, news of Thalora's new era spread to distant systems. Stories of the human ambassador, the Thaloran queen, and their child became known as symbols of cooperation, courage, and possibility. Zyra realized that the actions of one queen, one human, and one child could ripple across worlds, inspiring hope and understanding in ways that no weapon or decree ever could. As the child slept that night, Zyra and Leo sat side by side, reflecting on how far they had come. "The galaxy will test them," Zyra said quietly, "and they will face challenges we cannot yet imagine." Leo took her hand. "Yes, but they will also grow stronger, wiser, and braver because of it. We have given them a foundation, and they will build something extraordinary upon it." Zyra smiled, a mixture of pride and hope in her expression. "Then we continue as we always have, courage, intelligence, understanding. That is the way forward for our child, for our people, and for the galaxy." The twin moons bathed the palace in silver light, and for the first time, Zyra allowed herself to envision the vast possibilities ahead. She had faced anger, uncertainty, and tradition, and had emerged with clarity and vision. The child, a living symbol of unity and potential, represented the future she had always hoped to create. With Leo by her side and the child at the center of their world, Zyra knew that the galaxy would never be the same. They had faced the unexpected, embraced change, and discovered that true strength came not from fear, control, or power, but from courage, understanding, and the willingness to act when it mattered most. And as the palace lights dimmed and the city slept beneath the twin moons, Queen Zyra allowed herself one final thought before resting. The future was bright, the possibilities endless, and together anything was possible.